Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Nikhil Fernandez, and I'm the product manager at Sherweb, responsible for Sherweb's Google product portfolio. Our webinar today will focus on flexibility, security, and the simplicity of using and reselling Google Workspace via Sherweb. We have Rahul Kumar with us from Google Cloud, who will be our presenter today. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. I'll bring them during the presentation, and we will also have time for a Q&A session at the end. Now, without any further ado, I'm going to hand the mic over to Rahul.
Thank you, Nikhil, and welcome, partners. Really excited to have everyone on board. I normally would have my camera on, but we had some technical issues right before, so my webcam may not be working. I apologize for that. So for today's session, I know we have an hour, but I'm going to try to give it enough time where I can truly answer any questions you may have. So given that we have an audience today, which is a mix of current sellers of Workspace who are transacting with Sherweb, new Sherweb partners, as well as Sherweb partners who may or may not have transacted Workspace before. So I'm going to have a mix of content in today's webinars. I'm going to start with the Google Workspace story on collaboration, go a little bit deeper into security and why Google Workspace is a good fit for companies who have an eye on their security posture, especially in the collaboration space. And then we'll pivot a little bit around basically how Workspace competes today with other point products or other productivity suites, and then leave you with some sales methodology, but more importantly, leave you with some great content and links, which you can take and really start up your Workspace practice. So, I'm looking forward to questions. Hope it's useful. You can put questions in the chat and we can get to it, or feel free to hold them till the end. Thank you. Let's start with what Workspace is, right? So Workspace as a concept, when Google created this, was to create something which allowed teams of all sizes to connect, create, and collaborate. We didn't look at Workspace as a single tool or a integration of multiple tools, but really as that collaboration platform where all our point products could work together. As we come out of this COVID situation and more offices are opening, I actually am in the Google office today, we still see that there is a transition to this hybrid work model. Companies are struggling to figure out the mix of in-home and office environments. And the main challenge is how do they keep productivity and surround people with the right set of productivity and collaboration tools, regardless of where they are, be it home or coffee shop or in the office themselves. As we transition out of this in the next few years, according to multiple surveys, and we've linked out some of it here, work is no longer considered a place, right? We are way past the days, and it had started before COVID as well. If anything, COVID has accelerated this concept of work is not a place. You no longer have to badge in and badge out for most corporate jobs. An estimated 50% to 48% of workers will continue to work remotely post-COVID, and the number is even higher when you look at the hybrid work environment, where you may have a few days in office and a few days out of office, working from home. We've seen more people become caregivers and want to stay being caregivers, more employees who want to be primary caregivers. And one of the issues / opportunities with all of this is making sure we can build that human connection regardless of if it's in-person, virtual, and try to tie it down to the company culture. So Google Workspace can help everyone in the organization contribute equally, regardless of locations, roles, levels, even language with some of our translate features. We understand that things need to work from home. Frontline workers who are out in the field, sales or healthcare workers, for example, need access to their data and need to be able to make quick updates and quick changes on their data, even if they are on a mobile environment. And more importantly, you guys are probably seeing companies talk to you all about not only how they manage their internal employee experience, but what does this mean for their customers? They could walk their customers into customer experiences in the past where they would fly them over, take them out for dinner, walk them through labs, give them a demo. That isn't necessarily happening at the scale it used to in the past. So how do you reimagine that, and how do you bring all the features you want to show into an environment where you can collaborate that with your customer? So a lot of numbers here. I'm not going to get too deep into the slide. You may have seen the slide from me if you'll have attended, the webinar we had last year. But there are links. There will be links to all of these studies, which you all will have access to, which you can use in your marketing when you're reaching out to your customers. But three main key numbers in all of the analysis and studies which were done on Workspace is retention is higher, right? And this is just a fact. So, people who are using Workspace, employers are using Workspace, have a 68% retention versus a 30% on Microsoft 365. Now, there could be arguments made, well, that's not really Workspace. Companies which are using Workspace are more open to cloud collaboration and hence are more, more forward thinking, and that influences retention more so than Workspace versus Microsoft. And I would agree 100% with that. However, in general, employees do enjoy working on a cloud environment like Workspace, and it removes a lot of the frustrations which you feel trying to find files, trying to find the right documents and versioning, and be able to collaborate with your teammates. A similar concept for profitable growth, 55% for Microsoft, 75% for Workspace. These are purely companies who are 100% on one platform versus another and targeting their growth. Again, conversation could be around adoption to the cloud versus an actual platform. But a number which is really important is this workforce of tomorrow. 140 million, I think the number now is closer to 160 million students and teachers use Workspace. If y'all don't have children or who are currently using laptops for education, go ask a friend, family, or neighbor. Any of their kids are probably using Workspace in their education environment. And why is this important? These are the employees of tomorrow, right? They're coming out of college, they're coming out, entering the workspace, and they want to use an environment which A, they're familiar with, but B, enables them to do the things which they could do in their learning environments. So to give someone, who's coming from a cloud collaboration environment, to give them a traditional on-prem is really limiting their ability to be creative. So enabling this workforce of tomorrow and giving them the tools they need when they are trained up for Workspace is extremely important. I've been in the industry for close to 20 years, and I can tell you when I came out of college, everything was on Microsoft, and I was used to Microsoft at that point coming in. And the paradigm has changed completely now with Workspace being the choice for that workspace of tomorrow. So we have some business impacts here. We have a 21-day saving per user, and there are ways which that is calculated. Things like autocomplete, things like document sharing, which is one file version. More importantly, we have a huge reduction in tech support for Workspace users, and then an ROI being driven by Workspace. Again, the studies are listed on how that was calculated. An easy one to explain to your customers is the reduction in tech support, because with Google Workspace, everything is behind just a simple everything is behind just a single and simple login, which is your which is your company login or your Google login. So once that's done, all your tools, all your security, all your data, and we'll come to that in a few slides, are worked through that. So when there's an issue with the login of an email or a corporate login, tech support can manage it because it's all in a single space. So rather than them working through 2 or 3 or 4 different point solutions. So between integration, between file sharing, between data management and identity management, it really decreases the burden on tech support when they're doing that level 1, level 2 type queries which employees have, and which actually take a lot of time out of employee productivity. I was asked to talk a little bit more in this about security. Um, to the team here, I understood that a lot of your resellers were interested in Google Workspace stance and security. So I put in a few slides here, and of course, I'll leave you all with links to more where you can find more information. So while it goes without saying, a lot of people don't know this, where Workspace uses the same infrastructure which Google internally uses. We internally use Workspace. The security posture is the same which Google runs on. We started in the cloud, Google, and we run it in the cloud. So we fully understand the security implications of powering someone's business in the cloud. Um, because we run on the same infrastructure, your company, and your clients' organizations will benefit from some of the protections we have in. So as you can see, we have called out two numbers, right? 99% accuracy in blocking spam, and zero phished accounts for those who have the advanced protection on the enterprise program. But let's walk through how that works, right? And what that means. If you all are in this space and you have a sales team today, you're probably targeting some of the conversations around the security aspect over the last 6 months. It when I look at LinkedIn, it almost feels like every day there's a security breach. But then some of the big ones which have happened over the last 6 months or so are SolarWinds was one, Hafnimus was another, and Colonial Pipeline, of course, was a little earlier, but it was in the news and it was a big story. These are major disruptions of businesses which happened through, let's call them security issues for now. But the reality is, while these big ones happen and we hear about them, smaller attacks are happening on companies really on a day-to-day basis. And there's one key driver which is consistent in most of these type of security incidents. If we actually were using Meet right now, but actually put a poll up for you guys to vote on what you all thought the key driver was with security incidents. But the number one issue with security incidents is not the technology per se, but the human element behind it, right? Phishing attacks account for 91% of incidents, right? They start with a phishing email, 91% of attacks, people who click through it, then you have access to someone's corporate information and you can work your way through from there. Email-borne threats, links, malware, again, are targeted at individuals. Employees just neglecting, getting extorted, giving logins, again, user-based issue. And then, of course, there's been a massive increase in ransomware because companies would rather pay ransomware rather than take the blame for it. And of course, this has a negative impact when that is leaked from a lot of these companies. But the main call out here is, how do you stop this? You can stop it through employee training, which of course HR does a lot of. I'm sure most of you all have been through your mandatory IT yearly training, which you probably try to click through as fast as possible if you're anything like me. But right, more importantly, we want to remove as much of the human fallacy as possible from the conversation. So workspace, and again, this is a common piece behind it being human centric, but there are still vulnerabilities where you can target on infrastructure with legacy on-prem slash even legacy on-prem hybrid infrastructure. And the vulnerability here, of course, is that everything needs to be updated and patches need to be put in place. Windows computers need to be updated as soon as possible, and no one likes restarts. No one likes downtime. So users and humans put this off as much as possible. You wait for end of quarter, you wait for end of year, you wait for a long weekend to drive some of these updates, or you just don't restart your computer until it force restarts itself. With Google being a cloud solution, here's how it works to keep you safe, both from the aspect of removing that legacy security burden of on-prem, as well as trying to mitigate the human aspect of security. So the first thing is being born in the cloud, you always have security built in and it's always updated. At any point of time, if you're using Workspace, you have the latest security updates behind it. Every time we detect a threat at an enterprise level, we are pushing updates onto our servers where users don't see it and it's completely seamless from them when they access directly from their browser. So you can work securely from anywhere on any device if you're in your coffee shop or if you're in your office with the same security posture. So how do you take care of the human aspect of it, right? So the first piece is how do we remove the need, remove that element of humans being exposed to vulnerabilities from the start. So Workspace and Gmail specifically have a 99.9x accuracy in blocking spam and blocking emails and business email compromise scams. We just don't let them go through. We try to do it on Gmail as well if you have personal accounts, but there is a high level of accuracy in blocking just even up front. So we reduce the number of attacks someone may get. If you're like using a higher security posture with security keys, we've had no reported or detected account hijackings when you have a security key added to your workspace issues. And we have over 110 million devices under management today, both using security keys as well as not, uh, internally and externally. So every minute, right, the scale of what we are, the Google's machine learning and why it's important is literally every minute 10 million spam messages are prevented from reaching Gmail customers. With Google's machine learning, we are updating at that time workspace engines to detect these and update itself to block these across our worldwide customer base as well as Gmail customers. We scan web pages for harmful software at all points of time, highlighting them as soon as there's a malware file found online. Workspace automatically adds it to block users from coming in, and it shows up in your trash or your blocked mail. Similarly, URLs, software which is flagged shows up in Chrome as a warning not to click it because of suspected malware. And almost every minute, two phishing sites are found and labeled by Google and one malware site. So think about that. This is happening real time. In this time I've taken to present the slide to you, we've probably added 20 to 25 spam messages to our filters in real time through the machine learning side of it to block it out and reduce that element of employees clicking through what could become a threat in the future. So we spoke about this. It starts with email, right? We have built-in defenses against ransomware, spam and phishing notifications, and outgoing email is checked for sensitive information, which can be automatically flagged as well. So the first two are easy to see. Most companies will say they do this. But let's talk about the outgoing email and sensitive information and how we support DLP and data loss prevention for some of our customers. So what is DLP, right? If you're, again, talking to customers, this is probably on the top of their mind today, which is I now have my employees working from home, working from coffee shops. Earlier, I could put everything behind corporate access and no one could download a file outside of corporate access. But now if everything is shared and people are in their home environment, how do I keep my IP protected? How do I stop data leakage, either from an employee, making a mistake, or from a bad actor in my company trying to get all the files and leave or sell them? So the first thing it does is it helps with both unintentional and intentional data loss by being able to look at what content is secure or is not secure. Real time, you can set it to real time, automatically block certain files from being shared based on custom rules. So if your files are tagged or labeled in some ways, or there's information like social security numbers or PII data within it, depending upon if you're in the healthcare industry or if you're GDPR compliant, you can set up predefined rules there to block data from being shared where if someone tried to share a file with me, it would not go out because that file has that information tagged within it. You can also warn the user, or you can execute an isolation of that user when they suddenly have no access, or block them from that action specifically being executed. So, depending upon the type of file, the data within it, you can customize your rules to have various different direct, you know, almost real-time security responses to it. At the same time, like let's say I'm trying to download a file right now which has personal information, I can get a warning not to download, which I can override. But at the same time, Google has a security center which is centralized for most security teams, where within the center they have dashboards, health, and investigation tools which pop up for all of their collaboration software. So whether I'm on Gmail, whether I'm on Drive, whether I'm looking at a document, whether I'm looking at a slide, whether I'm uploading documents, to Drive, if any of this triggers a security rule or an issue, this pops up on our central security dashboard, which comes standard for all enterprise workspace deployments. And the security teams here can monitor, manage, and with a click, can change rules or isolate the user or block the user right from a central position. Or they can implement a rule which goes across their complete organization. Let's say there's a phishing email which has come through and someone's tried to open the link and they see it here on the security help dashboard. You can implement a rule which blocks that link if Google hasn't across your entire corporation. If you see a compromised password, you can freeze it immediately from the security center. So, okay, that's all great, but what does that mean from certifications? A lot of you all are working on the federal side. We have FedRAMP certifications, a bunch of different ISO audits and assessments, and these are just the top ones. We have a lot more behind the scenes. So if there's a specific compliance certification or regulatory conversation you're having with your customer, reach out to Sherweb, reach out to us. We're more than happy. We probably have 101 use cases we can talk to you about and give you information about behind that user story or that compliance certification. One of the things we've heard in the past, or I've heard in the past by users who didn't want to use it was, well, if I use Google products, all my data will be sold. And that is far from the truth from any paid for Google product, right? So Workspace, when it's on a business account, even if it's at the lowest level, um, versus at the enterprise levels, regardless of where we are, privacy and confidentiality is a priority for us. So we don't have data. We do not collect, scan, or use your data in Workspace services for advertising. We don't display ads in Workspace. Accessibility is always there, regardless if you're on your mobile phone. We have, we have a 99.9% SLA for our base levels, and they go higher at the enterprise level conversations. And our true numbers are actually much higher in the 0.4 after the dot levels behind it. You own the data, right? It does not belong to Google. Any data which is put into Workspace, is, even though it lays on the cloud, we do not have access to it, and you have it, and you stay in control of it. You can delete it, export it at any point of time. You can tell us where you want it to be stored. This is important for GDPR, where some countries in Europe want their data only stored in certain data centers that can be set up at the enterprise level as well. You stay in control of where your data is, where it's deleted, where it can be exported to, if it can be downloaded, and we don't keep backup copies once the delete request is in place. So that's great, right, about the security posture. But what is, some of you may be new to this and saying, well, okay, Rahul, that's all great. We know about Docs. We've heard about Gmail. Why don't you just call that? Why do you all call it Workspace? So what do we sell? And when I say we, I mean Google here as a whole, right? We sell behind this concept of communication, collaboration, and control. The communication have our main tools for actually communicating with colleagues, such as calendaring, Gmails, chat. I have voice here through Sherweb. You currently have a limited voice offering, but if you have voice customers, reach out to them. They're more than willing and happy to drive that conversation with Google and enable you to place those orders. Similarly, with collaboration, the main things we think of is all of the doc features, sheets, slides, forms. We don't think of Google Drive, which comes with Workspace, which really is the largest. You get 5 gigs of storage. It's one of the largest free storage platforms out there, and you can store data. You don't need Dropbox. You can reduce those point solutions costs behind this. And again, as I spoke earlier, all of these aspects come with that simplified and singular security and control element of our security center administrative portal and our endpoint management piece behind it. I like this slide because this gives us, you can print this slide out it gives you a good conversation piece when you talk to your customer. The first thing to do when you talk to customers, especially with customers who want to talk about price and cost, is understanding their current IT stack, right? So most customers will have an email solution. Most will have a web conferencing or multiple web conferencing solutions. Most will have some sort of storage solution, at least at a minimum. Probably a chat if they're using Slack, Teams, Jabber. But there's a one-to-one correlation with all of these point platforms to Workspace, be it email or go, as I've spoken about, Drive in storage, but even archiving, etc., has a direct correlation. So when you're talking to them, don't just focus the conversation potentially on email, which is easy to do, or docs, right? Understand their point solutions, and if they don't have point solutions, I don't want to talk to them. Ask how do you share, right? What do you have a web distribution? How does marketing publish web pages today? What's your storage look like? How does legal store legal documents? Or you're using free versions. Try to get as much of information behind their current IT stack. Once you do that, right, you can look at this concept of and build a slide, this sort of slide out for them, which looks at their rationalization. Okay, you have so many messaging tools. Marketing is using Slack. Your internal teams are using Teams. You have some people using this. You have some people using, Skype. You're using 2 video conferencing tools. You have 3 project management tools. Some users are using Dropbox. Some users are using Box. Right. Once you lay out that view for them on a management rationalization, and then talk about, we have cloud providers which can do this. Workspace can do everything. Office 365 need Office. And then you have sort of best of breed out there, which may provide point solutions which still are considered quote unquote best of breed. This helps you put this sort of slide together for your customers, which says, okay, now that we understood where we are, here's what you're looking at today, just from like the top 5 pieces of what you'll do with streaming, collaboration, editing, content management, domain. This can change depending upon the conversation you've had with them. It could be security here, it could be chat, it could be a variety of other things. Looking at the cost of what they pay per user per month or per user per year, and then looking at what Workspace provides them at a level, and what the cost is. So this purely looks at positioning their IT stack against Workspace and the cost behind it. Now, of course, marketing or some people may come back with, no, I need XYZ. I need Slack because I like to share files with my external vendors who use Slack. And that's a great business case to put forward as well, which is, all right, you can still use Slack, but does 95% of your organization need Slack? Or does your marketing team need Slack as a certain use case? But can 95% of the organization work with chat, which is in the Workspace suite and is protected, secure, integrated with all the data points, integrated with sharing? And most companies will realize, yes, that is possible. We can run them and we can see a significant savings. We don't need 100% of the company with Slack platforms. We need to figure out that use case and use Slacks for that use case. And we've had this before, right? Similarly, some legal teams talk about Dropbox having some legal pieces where they have legacy data which they don't want to move behind it, and even Outlook, right? Where some people want to keep Outlook and don't want to move to web-based versions, which is completely fine, but they want to use the Google collaboration tools with Docs chats, and that is possible as well. So promote Workspace, of course, address the competition, but talk about cost, cost of use, and we'll talk about interoperability in the next few slides as well. The other thing, to call out to your customer is this concept of total cost, right? TCO is not just the product cost, not just the monthly cost. That is the tip of the iceberg. You then have all of the hidden costs behind it. If that's managing the product, if that's keeping tech support, that's having security postures for all these different products, having DLP rules for multiple point products, breaches, lawsuits, adoption training, just everything behind it, right? Every time you have a different point product, even if you're integrating user logins and keeping single sign-ons between them, you don't necessarily have the same security position because each point product operates in a different way. And as IT builds custom APIs to connect different products together and data together, it just increases the amount of security targets which customers may have on them. So the cost, yes, there's a cost of a solution which you can talk about just in dollars per month per user, but make sure you're having the conversation around all of the other hidden costs. And this is a great slide to bring that forward to your customer, and it helps them realize, oh, that's not all I'm talking about or looking at right now. So as you saw in the last few slides, right, Workspace is uniquely positioned to compete with the full suite of offerings, Microsoft as well, right, O365 as well as point solutions. And there was a point when COVID started where Zoom took off and the stock went to the roof, and now it's falling and in free fall because Meet wasn't necessarily there with all of their features. But in the last year, right now, Google Meet is on par or have exceeded purely feature sets of Zoom, with breakout rooms, with polls, with collaboration features, with real-time translations. Not only that, but now you don't have the security implications and the security stories which you had through Zoom, and it's free and available as part of the Workspace offering, as opposed to a different point solution cost. So let's talk about one of my fun topics, which is, well, my customer is on Microsoft and is worried about transitioning or what that looks like. So interoperability is important, and it's important to understand, especially when you're talking to your customers, what they can do with interoperability. You generally will have three scenarios where customers want to use Workspace and Office at the same time. You have a split coexistence, which is normally during an upgrade or transition to Workspace, where some of the organization uses Google and some of the organization uses Microsoft, and then they transition it out slowly. You'll often see operational teams staying with Microsoft, sales teams starting to use Google first, and then all the operation teams come on board. We also have this concept of dual existence, where this is not a limited time engagement. You actually keep dual existence with Workspace and Microsoft tools. Legal may continue using Office suite, but the rest of the company uses Workspace. And then, of course, you have the full migration to Workspace scenarios in this interoperability case. Now, that's important when you understand, and I have in the next slide what that looks like. But before that, right, I wanted to put this out there from a purely similar but not same concept. I've been asked about pricing with Microsoft, and if you go to the Microsoft platform and just look at the cost there, they have 35 different SKUs of more than that with different smaller features. So we've tried to, in this slide, I've tried to put down where they align the most, right? If it's frontline workers where they only have Office 365 versus Workspace frontline workers where they get all of the Workspace tools, not just the O365 piece of it, all the way through the E5 licenses, which are having an increase right now in costs. you have list prices which you can look at and see the cost differences. But more importantly, from my understanding, the changes in the Microsoft Partner Program hold you guys accountable for multi-year deals now, and the exposure now is at the partner if the customer doesn't pay from a Microsoft standpoint. So definitely more to look at. We are more than happy to help you find the right alignment of solution and feature sets. But this is just a high level overview of this is what IT workers look like. This is what the offerings look like across the suites. And again, Google has more of a simplified four-level offerings versus the 35 you would find with Microsoft today. And just going back to interoperability, right? When we looked at those three scenarios, how does the customer work with Google and Microsoft at the same time? Well, the fact is they work really well from both sides, right? We worked on making sure integration and interoperability works on both sides. You can have dual email delivery. You can have Office set up. You can have Gmail set up. And email is delivered to both systems on the same address, same domain, which you have. Everyone continues working as usual, regardless if they're using Gmail on the web or Office on an on-prem solution installed on the laptop. And address books also integrate. Calendar sharing as well works regardless of the platform. You can see free busy on both platforms, propose new times, room invitations, invitation forwarding, just works out of the box seamlessly in that interoperability scenario. Little more complex than SharePoint data, so you have to migrate the SharePoint data to Google Drive. But once you migrate it, you can actually maintain all your permissions. So if you have SharePoint set up with a bunch of different permissions and access levels, etc., all of those permissions can be maintained with the migration. You can use your Office client with Gmail with an Outlook, so you can set up your Gmail as just the normal Outlook inbox. We don't recommend that. We recommend Chrome browser for the best experience, but it can be set up. Office files can be edited in Google Docs. Google Docs can be edited in Office. Changes made in Office files and Docs work seamlessly. You don't need any file conversion on either way. You can use all of your collaboration features of Google Workspace in your Office documents, and if your other users are using Google Workspace, they can see the collaboration aspect of it, see the notes, make changes, collaborate together on the document. But the Office users will get that document updated to them, and it works seamlessly for them as well. You can mount Drive to Windows Explorer, where Google Drive becomes another CDE drive type of thing in Windows Explorer. And while meetings work separately, both teams in Google work on a web-based platform, and you can join the browser as guests. So everyone can still participate regardless if they have a team or a Google Meet meeting, because both of those are web-based. So message here is interoperability works. You can build a use case where you have half the company transitioning or some point solutions being on Office in this scenario, but we have interoperability stories for everything where it's easy to migrate data and keep it, and the learning curve is zero, because when you use Word versus Docs, it is almost exactly the same, except one is web-based with additional collaboration features as opposed to Word, being partially web-based today. So, the last couple of slides from my side is when you're reaching out to your customer, again, print the slide on for your sales team as well, right? What targeted personas are they looking at? And then what discovery questions should they be asking? Talk about finding out their current IT stack, as I spoke. Talk about asking them if they use multiple work platforms. If they have used O365, ask them about what do they like about it. Are they seeing teams use the online version? Or how many members of their team still use the desktop version? And try to get that data if they have it, because what you'll find is almost 60 to 70% of O365 users still are emailing versions on a desktop without and keeping a version 1 of the doc, version 1.1, version 1.1.2, etc. Talk about RTO and hybrid strategy. How are they going to cope with it? What does that mean for recruitment? Is everyone in office? How are they going to manage, employee recruitment, employee retention in that scenario? And talk about IT and how important it is in the IT plan. So good questions here, good discovery questions to ask. Focus on the workspace value proposition of collaboration, simplicity, and then bring in the cost saving aspects, which we spoke about, where you can show a cost saving by from moving to workspace from the other tools. This is a little bit of an eyesore slide, but it's more of a link for you guys. I've linked this to Partner Advantage. If you don't have Partner Advantage, you actually, Nicole will talk in your next slide about how Sherweb can set you up and have access to it. Partner Advantage is our Google internal partner platform. Specifically on the workspace page of Partner Advantage, workplace page of Partner Advantage, we have updated it to a bunch of new assets for our partners. So you have positioning guides, you have selling guides, we have sales plays available for you to target different personas. We have email scripts, calling scripts, right? Logos, messaging, presentation. So all you really need to do is get your inside sales teams activated on this because they have all of the content ready to go in their outreach and prospecting program. So if you haven't looked at this lately, or if you've never accessed Partner Advantage, um, it doesn't require a lot of hoops to jump through. Just set up an account, get validated that you're through Sherweb as a distributor and you have access to all of this. And definitely click. If there's one thing you're taking away from this presentation, click to this link and have it bookmarked and saved. It will provide you with a bunch of resources to help your sales team position and deliver. With that, Nicole, over to you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. This definitely was a very insightful presentation. If you guys have any questions, just a reminder again, please be sure to type your questions in the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will answer them. So Rahul, one of the questions that I've seen from a lot of our attendees is when we spoke about security. Is these features limited to certain Google Workspace plans, or are they available across all plans, even the entry level ones?
Yes, so there's a security posture which is available even at the entry level. The enterprise have the entire set of DLP and what do you call it, and the security center. But there is security built in through all the plans. So again, go to Partner Advantage. It actually shows you a breakdown of by plan, what you have within it.
Awesome. And another question that we have is from John, is does Google Workspace have a solution similar to Dynamics 365?
John, I'll have to follow up and get back and look at that. One of the things I would say is on the Partner Advantage link at the bottom right, there is the competitive solutions. And if you click on that, you actually have, and I can see if I can pull it up in a moment, but you have that all of Microsoft points in 365 with the corresponding Google. So I don't know the exact answer to that. I don't want to just say something here, but you can go through that Partner Manager and find out, or let me try finding it out now as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Rahul. John, we'll work with you and your partner account manager to sort of find the answer to this question and send it across to you. The other question is from Jason. It's about discounts. So I'd like to address that, Jason. You do get a 5% discount upfront from Sherweb for selling Google Workspace products, and you're also eligible for any additional discounts, based on the order value or your seat size. Feel free to reach out to your partner account manager, and we can work with you to sort of get you a better deal and a better discount if that's something that you have in mind to resell this product to your customers.
Yeah, just going back to the last question, I believe App Engine is what we position. Google App Engine is what we position against Dynamics 365. So if you want to go and Google the App Engine, you can find it out, which is part of Workspace.
Awesome. Thanks, Rahul. We'll send the information again to John, so he has all of the details on his end. I think that's all the questions that we had, Rahul. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
I don't, but I think Nikhil, it would be great to talk to the team about who may not be partners, because I understand that there's some members who are new and not yet partners, as to how they can sign up with Sherweb and then how they can connect into Google with the Sherweb partnerships. I'm going to speak to
Sure.
that.
Sure. If you already are a partner, and like Rahul spoke before, if you don't really have a partner advantage account to take advantage of all of the features that you get from Google, please reach out to your account management team, and we will be happy to help you with the process to get you signed up. If you're a new Sherweb partner, be rest assured our team will reach out to you to sort of get you on board the Google Workspace platform. In case you do have any other questions about it, our details are on the page right now. You can either give us a call or you can get in touch with our account management team anytime, and we'll be happy to address any questions that you have. I think we are good for now, Rahul.
Yes,
So
thank you. Thank you everyone for your time. We really appreciate taking time out of your day, and hopefully this was useful. I think, Nikhil, you'll be sending the slides over to the team, correct? To everyone who attended.
Yes, that's right. We will be sending over the slides to you in a follow-up email. Thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate your time and being here. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time in our next presentation.
Thank you, everyone.